Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. My dear conference attendees and viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My speech, using the Holy Quran to navigate your path to the Nobel Prize, builds upon the two speeches I delivered in the last few years, attaching your research to the Holy Quran and digital tools for Quranic discovery. These series of speeches are all derived from Huzur's 2019 address to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Researchers Association. In his address, our beloved Khalifa rightly pointed out that since Dr. Abdus Salam, we have yet to produce a single scientist that has won a Nobel Prize, or even just become world-renowned. So the natural question we should be asking ourselves is why? I believe one reason is that we have yet to fully embrace Huzur's instructions when he said, in many verses of the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty has mentioned the creation of the heavens and the earth, and He has instructed us to reflect upon the true purpose of our creation. He has encouraged us to use our brains to ponder upon His creation and to search for new roads of human progress and innovation through research and reflection. Note the two means Huzur mentions, research and reflection. Now, everyone here is well versed in the modern methods of research, which is why I believe our key to success lies more in reflection. And the primary focus of our reflection should be the Holy Quran. Huzur says, certainly, out of all the heavenly scriptures, the Holy Quran is unique in terms of the vast amount of insight it has given about the universe and its inception and how it has encouraged scientific research and the pursuit of knowledge. So what happens when you take time out to constantly reflect and ponder on the Holy Quran? I believe you become philosophically primed. When you're philosophically primed, you think big, making you more likely to see connections that others miss. You also get guardrails, saving you from misguided approaches or hypotheses not aligned with Allah's system of design. In fact, Huzur reminded us, always remember that to stay within the confines of the Holy Quran is the hallmark of a believer. If you conduct your work in this way, you can achieve great things and revive the once distinguished reputation of Muslim scholars and academics. Finally, you would also earn blessings. Your research not only becomes more successful, but also becomes a form of worship. Essentially, you double dip. As with previous speeches, the thoughts I present here are not meant to be a tafsir. It's just a personal perspective that I think may benefit others. So, let's see how being philosophically primed works. Say you are an Ahmadi Muslim researcher living in the first half of the 1900s. And you, like your fellow researchers, believed that the body's protein requirements were satisfied by whatever it consumed in a day. But then, due to some new studies at the time, you and your colleagues were perplexed to learn that the body's protein requirements were 3 to 5 times greater than what the body got from diet alone. So the big question now was, where? Where is all this extra protein that the body needs coming from? The rest of your colleagues spent time chasing various ideas. But since you had been reflecting on the Holy Quran, you were guided to this verse. Except those who repent and believe and do good deeds, for as to these, Allah will change their evil deeds into good deeds, and Allah is most forgiving, merciful. Let me repeat this part again. Change their evil deeds into good deeds. We usually think about deed accounting as a sort of scale, hoping that the good deeds outweigh the bad. But here, Allah is talking about a mechanism by which the bad deeds are actually converted into good ones as well, a type of recycling. The bad doesn't get flushed away, but actually becomes good. But you say that's all in the spiritual domain. How does that apply to the physical? Well, since you regularly read the writings of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, you may have recalled an expert where he says, there is a deep relationship between the science of bodies and the science of religion. and that they confirm each other. When I looked at the Holy Quran, keeping in mind the books that dealt with physical medicine, I discovered that the Holy Quran sets out in excellent manner the principles of physical medicine. In essence, Islam confirms science, and science confirms Islam. Since you are philosophically primed to seek parallels between the spiritual and the physical realms, to solve the protein intake discrepancy, you could have shifted your research towards looking for biological mechanisms that change the bad to the good. And this would have led you to uncover autophagy. Autophagy literally means self-eating, and it's the remarkable cellular process by which the body identifies, breaks down, and recycles its own dysfunctional parts. By researching autophagy, you would have also discovered lysosomes, the organelles that carry out this internal cleansing. And because you are philosophically primed, you would have published first. So when the Nobel Prize was awarded in 1974 for the discovery of autophagy and lysosomes, it wasn't Christian de Duve who accepted it. It was you. Incidentally, it's common knowledge now but he also discovered that one of the triggers for this type of self-purification is fasting. I'm telling you, these Nobel Prizes should have been ours. But you may say, that's all in the past. What about the present day? Well, I'm happy to say that autophagy isn't done handing out Nobel Prizes. Even after the discovery of autophagy, much about it remained a mystery. For years, scientists regarded it as a passive background process, poorly understood with little clarity about how it was controlled or coordinated. But since you were philosophically primed, you would have turned to the Quran's deeper model of purification, one that is not isolated but collective. You would have reflected on how the soul is most effectively purified, not just in solitude, but in community, through congregational prayer, mutual support, and the unifying force of a shared spiritual practice. Guided by this insight, you would have asked, if spiritual purification gains strength from togetherness, could the same be true in the body? You'd have looked beyond the search for a single gene and instead sought a network, a congregation of genes working together to initiate and regulate the autophagic process. You knew that spiritual science confirms the physical, so you search along that path. And that is exactly what you would have found. That autophagy is not a solitary act, but is a tightly regulated, genetically coordinated process, one that depends on the unity of many genes working together towards a common purpose. And because you are philosophically primed, it wouldn't have been Yoshinori Ohsumi who stood in Stockholm in 2016 to accept the Nobel Prize for uncovering the genetic orchestration of autophagy. It would have been you. This is why being philosophically primed is so important. But I get it, right? Even though this is an example from just a few years ago, it's still technically in the past. And a common objection I hear is that while we can look to the Quran after a big discovery, it's not really practical to use it to actively guide your future research. Again, Hazur has indicated otherwise. All Ahmadi researchers or academics should continually keep in view the oneness of God, the Almighty, before, during, and after conducting any research or study. When they research in this way and seek the help of Allah the Almighty at each step, no doubt He will assist them at every juncture and be their guiding light. So let's see how we can use the Holy Quran and the philosophical priming it offers to not only confirm the discoveries of the past, but also guide us towards discoveries of the future. For that, let's continue with the example of autophagy. But know that this exercise could easily apply to any of your fields of research. With autophagy, we find that there's still a lot unknown. For one, scientists don't know how specific targets are selected for degradation. Essentially, what goes in the recycling bin. Our philosophical priming should prompt us to first convert the question from a physical one into a spiritual one, and then reflect. That is, how do we, as Ahmadi Muslims, target specific spiritual shortcomings in ourselves for correction. If we reflect, one way we do that is by contrasting our behavior to ideal behavior. And what does ideal behavior look like? Allah tells us, "Verily, you have in the Prophet of Allah an excellent model for him, who fears Allah and the last day, and who remembers Allah much." Therefore, we should always be contrasting our behavior to that of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The sunnah and character of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam serve as the perfect blueprint that we can use to contrast and highlight our own impurities. So perhaps in our bodies somewhere, there's a type of perfect blueprint that our body compares and contrasts potential targets to when deciding if it should be subjected to autophagy. This is just one hypothesis, but deeper spiritual reflection could yield more. Another open question is, how do different parts of the cell contribute to the process of autophagy? Essentially, how is the recycling bin itself made? Again, our philosophical priming flips the question to the spiritual. How do different acts of the soul contribute in different ways to the process of spiritual purification? From our own experience, we can attest to the fact that purification doesn't come from one single type of act. We may reflect upon the fact that it's not just one pillar of Islam, but 5. These pillars must somehow work together in some unique way to help us achieve spiritual purification. So perhaps reflecting on this holds the key to understanding how different parts of a cell contribute to physical purification. A third open question is, what signals tell the cell to initiate a new autophagy cycle once a previous one has completed? Again, we flip it. What signals tell the soul to initiate a new purification cycle once a previous one has completed? For this, our philosophical priming may not need to go any further than the verse Huzur opened his address with. In the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of the night and day, there are indeed signs for men of understanding. If we reflect on the phenomenon of alternation, we realize we see it everywhere in creation. In a single day, we alternate between the physical life and the spiritual life at least 5 times a day in the form of salat. Every 7 days, we attend Jummah. Every 30 days, we give chanda. And every 360 days, we welcome Ramadan. So perhaps in the physical world, autophagy and physical renewal initiate on various cycles and different lengths. Are there Nobel Prizes in answering these questions? Allahu alam, Allah knows best. These hypotheses are just examples of how we might use our philosophical priming, rooted in the Holy Quran, to actively direct our future research. And unlike myself, you all are trained scientists and academics, deeply knowledgeable about the open questions and opportunities in your own respective fields of study. Imagine the impact on the world you will have when you make the Holy Quran your ally. So instead of other people standing on the Nobel stage, it would be you. And this isn't my prediction, but Huzur's. When he said that, this was how Dr. Abdul Salam Sahib conducted his work, and he attained phenomenal success as a result. So listen to the words of our Khalifa. Become philosophically primed, and let the world testify to how you use the Holy Quran to navigate your path to the Nobel Prize. Jazakallah khair.